Hello and welcome to Share Talk. I am Banja Hughes. It is a beautiful sunny summer day in London. Our very special guest today is Mick Billing. He is the chairman of Thor Mining. He's here to tell us about his most recent news and announcement. He's just acquired a 40% interest in the Banja Project, which is very close to their developing Molly Hill project in Northern Territories of Australia. They also have projects in Nevada. And please, here to tell us about his project and his most recent acquisition is Mick Billing.
G'day Bonnie, nice to talk to you again. We've had some pretty good news in recent times, and in Banja in particular is a project that I've been trying to get hold of for 5.5 years. I'm nothing if not persistent, I guess. Banja is roughly 30 kilometres from Molly Hill. By road it's probably a bit more like 40, but effectively as the crow flies about 30. And I guess if there's been a criticism of our potential for Molly Hill development to be financed in the past, it's because the life of Molly Hill is 6 or 7 years. That's okay because you get pretty early payback, but people like a longer life to be comfortable. We've struggled to get much more than that at Molly Hill on its own. I think we can with some underground development that will happen, but we don't yet have a JORC compliant resource for that. But what we do have, and what we've known for a long time we have, is 13 outcropping deposits of tungsten just 30 kilometres away at Banja.
And the tungsten price has been doing phenomenal in the past year. It's gone from $25.50 a kilogram to over 31, and as well as the molybdenum price has had a very good run in the past couple of months.
Molly has almost trebled over the last couple of years, Bonnie, but in the last 6 months or so, yes, it's done very well indeed. I was in Seoul last week talking to some people who want Molly for their businesses, and they're telling me that the grades of Molly in the porphyry copper deposits in South America is dropping. And so they are saying that, and I've not checked this out, but I have to accept what they say, that the price of Molly is likely to stay strong for the next 2 to 3 years. I hope they're right.
Me too. And so you're proceeding towards a definitive feasibility study on Molly Hill. Is that correct? And will this incorporate Banja as well?
It probably can't incorporate Banja because our DFS, and that will be complete in the next few weeks. I had said it should be done by the end of March. Unfortunately, there's still a bit of work to be done by a consultant or two, but it's coming along nicely. But to incorporate Banja in there, we have to get the deposits there at least to indicated resource standard. Now, there's been no exploration done on these deposits since 1978.
Wow.
That's 40 years. That's 40 years ago. At the time, there was a few drill holes in a couple of them. There was some trenching across several of them, and a well-credentialed Australian geologist at the time wrote quite an exhaustive report about them. But what happened in 1978 and was reported back then on not a lot of drilling really, and what we could report on now and get away with the regulator are entirely different things. So we need to do some exploration work at Banja. We think that about $250,000 Aussie dollars would probably come up with a resource estimate on 2 or 3 of those deposits, and we plan to do that just as soon as we can get on the ground. We've got to talk with the other 60% holder, Arafura. That relationship is quite good. We've been in some discussion with them for the last 5.5 years, and we've got to agree a budget for those activities. But yeah, I'd say in a couple of months' time we'll have a drill rig out there doing some work and turning what we call deposits into resources.
That's excellent. And so how come the partner finally, after 5.5 years, says, okay, you can come and be our joint venture partner? I'll try and come up with a short answer to something that normally needs a long response. But
The Banja tenement has been held by one outfit, Arafura, for a long time. They have, over the last 10 years or so, had joint venture arrangements with one party for uranium, another party for precious and base metals, and the ownership of it has been quite complicated, and I guess they, in their internal discussion, said let's not complicate it any further. That got simplified substantially a month or two ago, and there was a 60-40 relationship between Arafura and another party. The other party said to us, we'll sell you our 40% share, but Arafura have the right to match that and gazump you. Arafura came back a couple of days ago and said, no, we're happy to work with Thor, we'll go into joint venture with them. Whether they contribute and we share the exploration cost on 60-40 basis, or whether they dilute, they haven't reached a final position yet, but this is core to Molly Hill. We'll be trying to accelerate it as quickly as we possibly can, and they're fairly supportive.
So there is future potential that you could acquire more than 40% of the project?
There is at some stage if if Arafura elect not to continue to contribute. Yes, there are standard dilution provisions in the joint venture agreement, which we are now part of, and yeah, we can go up to well past 50% to 80 or something, but and that would be nice. But the core objective is to get hold of that, turn those deposits into resources, permit a number of what are probably not much more than quarries, and start carting that ore to Molly Hill into the plant there.
So Molly Hill is your most advanced project and the one that is nearest to production, is that correct?
That's correct. If we're chasing about $40 million now for project finance. That's not a lot of money in terms of financing mining projects, but it's more than I've got, and if you could help me out there, Bonnie, I'll be quite pleased.
Well, I'll see what I can do.
But if from the time we get finance, Molly Hill development and construction period is about 12 months. So if, for example, we concluded a finance deal, put a number at date out of the year, 30th of September, by the end of the third quarter in 2019, the first concentrate should start rolling out the gate.
And are you looking at debt and equity sort of setup, or a streaming deal or something?
We're looking at a whole bunch of arrangements. There are some mezzanine finance people in discussion with us. There are people who want the concentrate, be it tungsten or molybdenum, who would be prepared to kick in a little bit. We will probably have to kick in some equity, but at the moment we're working on keeping that as low as we can, because I would rather do it with debt than with equity. I don't want to dilute our shareholders any more than we absolutely have to.
Yes, exactly. That seems to be the problem for most mining companies when it comes to having to raise capital in order to put something into production, is trying not to dilute shareholders and present them with the best deal possible. And so I guess that's your strategy too. And you've started the discussions earlier enough, because I know that they usually take a long time.
Well, we had some discussions with a number of parties 3 years ago with exactly this objective at the time, when we put out the previous version of the feasibility in 2015. At the time we had 3 problems that we couldn't resolve at the time. One was a mine life of only 6 years. The second was tungsten price that was heading south instead of north. And the third was our market cap at the time was probably £3 or £4 million. Since then we have a reserve that allows us to have a 7-year mine life as an open pit. We know and have demonstrated there's an underground life afterwards, and now there's Banja that we believe will take it to 12-15 years in total.
And now your projects in Nevada, are they on the back burner, or you're still very interested in developing those, or is there a possible spin out for something?
We're still moving ahead with Pilot Mountain. We have done the vast majority of the costly exploration spend is behind us. I'm not saying there won't be some more drilling. There will be, and we've signalled to the market that we will do a little bit more this year. But we're talking $250,000 or thereabouts, US dollars, not Aussie in this instance. We are also, pardon me, towards the back end of a process of a scoping study that we commissioned some time ago. Work out which of the two deposits there that have resource estimates on them that we would mine first, how we would mine them, and where we would put the tailings dam and the processing plant and all of that sort of stuff. That's continuing. We're also doing the second stage of metallurgical test work there at Pilot Mountain. We have done sufficient to know that we can produce a saleable concentrate for scheelite and also a saleable copper-silver concentrate. What we have not done is that work to a level that allows us to develop a costed flow sheet and come up with the sort of equipment specs you need for a pre-feasibility study. So we're doing that this year. The costs of that are not zero, but they are not huge. And so we can do that without an enormous cash burn. We're not going to run out of money this year with what we have, but we can make considerable progress at Pilot Mountain without spending a lot of money, and we're going to get on and do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Mick. I look forward to hearing the news on your DFS and your other news flow on your other projects, and welcome you to come and visit us again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Share Talk. Please come back again and listen to other interviews that we have. Thank you.